Here are 3 things that I did today as a bookkeeper. Each of them take about an hour to complete. So first of all, let's talk about running payroll. I log into my client's payroll system, which is Gusto, and I sync the approved hours. So the managers in the office approve all the hours of each worker, and so I know they're correct in there, and then I can sync it to the actual place that I run payroll. The next thing that I do for this particular client is work on commissions. So I go into QuickBooks Online and I look at all the income that came in, and all the income, most of it, needs to be categorized to a certain person, and then I pay them a percentage of the money that they made. And I have a spreadsheet that kind of calculates everything, and then I am able to put it in the commission section within Gusto. Again, that is the payroll company. And this actually takes me more than an hour, usually maybe almost 2 hours. But after I did that, it feels so good. I can make sure all the PTO and vacation looks good and then hit submit. And I do have this syncing with my QuickBooks so that when those payments come through on the bank, Gusto makes a journal entry that is all ready for me and waiting in QuickBooks. Next thing I'm going to do is send client reports. So usually I send a profit and loss statement and a balance sheet. One thing my clients are often interested in the balance sheet is that it has the owner's draws. So any distributions or draws that the owner is taking, those don't show up on the profit and loss statement because actually they're not an expense to the business. It is an equity withdrawal. So that is all on the balance sheet. I always look over the reports before I send them and make sure there's nothing out of the ordinary, uncommon expenses or something that looks weird. If so, I will add a note to my client and we can discuss it more if needed. And number 3 is sending an Ask My Accountant report also. This kind of goes along with the reports. But this is the section where I drop any mystery transactions, things that I don't know where they go, or if they could be categorized in multiple categories and I need to check with my client. So about once a month, I download this from QuickBooks and I send this off to my client as well with a column for them to write their answers to my questions. If you're interested in bookkeeping, check out all my free resources. I've worked as a bookkeeper for about 12 years. I have 2 kids, and during the summer, my schedule is pretty unpredictable because we're traveling and my kids are home. But normally I work about half time, so I'll work like 5 weekdays about 8 a.m. to noon. Let me know what you're doing this week as a bookkeeper. Hello, this is kind of a compilation day in the life. You might have seen some of these clips before because I'm reusing some old B-roll, but hopefully this is still inspiring you as a bookkeeper and seeing some of the things that I do every single day. My name is Morgan and my website is FinePoints.biz. Definitely check out my free checklist on how to start a bookkeeping business in 30 days. That and a whole bunch more bookkeeper resources are linked in my description box. Any engagement you have also helps me out a ton. If you can give this video a thumbs up, watch till the end, and leave me a comment about what you're doing this week as a bookkeeper. I'm also curious if there's any video requests you guys have, because I'm making my fall video lists and I would love to have feedback about what you want to see. I really do appreciate you guys. Some of you have been here with me for so many years and I love getting to know you guys and sharing bookkeeper content. All right, let's continue to get some work done together throughout the rest of this video. 3 things I do on a typical day as a bookkeeper. First thing I'm going to start with is the chart of accounts cleanup. This is really satisfying. I do it about once a year for each client. The chart of accounts is what gives structure to a profit and loss statement. So that is one of the key statements that I give my clients, and the categories that show up on that statement are all contained in the chart of accounts. So by going through it and just kind of cleaning it up, deleting or combining categories as needed, it creates a really clean and clear profit and loss statement. The next thing I'm going to do today is enter paper checks. This is very old school. So a local client actually gives me paper check stubs, and then it's my job to enter them into QuickBooks manually. And so then when the bank feed pulls it in, like when the person cashes the check, I can match them really easily to the check that is outstanding. So this is of course really important because you want to know how much money you have in your account to make sure you have enough money to cover those checks that you've written. All right, the last thing I'm doing today is categorizing transactions in QuickBooks Online. This is the super classic bookkeeper task that I do every single week. So QuickBooks has bank feeds, so all of the transactions are waiting in there, everything that my client spent money on or any income that they got. And QuickBooks makes a good guess about what category it should go in, but it's not always right. So sometimes there's a vendor like Best Buy, and it could be office supplies, or it could be snacks, or it could be a laptop. So I double check all those categorizations to make sure that they are accurate. Here's what I'm doing today for my bookkeeping clients. First of all, starting out with payroll, then I have a phone call, and then I'm going to send some reports to my clients specifically and ask my accountant to report. All right, so starting out with payroll, this is one of the more time-intensive tasks that I do for my clients, and I know payroll is due today at 4. So the first thing I actually did this a different day, was categorize the income for my clients. So they want to know which of their employees is responsible for a certain income. So I did that in QuickBooks, and now I log into Gusto, which is my payroll company. I don't do manual payroll, but I always use a payroll company. I check that the timesheets were approved by the managers. Then I put in the commission earned for each employee. And then there's a couple other buttons to press, and then I submit payroll for the month. Next thing is I have a Zoom call with my assistant. And so as a bookkeeper, I would recommend trying to hire out or delegate some of the tasks that you don't enjoy as much. So my assistant helps me a lot with my bookkeeper marketing. So I do have a YouTube video on that if you're interested in learning more about how to hire within your bookkeeping business, even if you feel pretty small. I work part-time so that I can care for my kids when they get home from school. Usually that's around 2-ish. So I wrap up my workday right after lunch. But the last thing I'm going to do today is send those reports in QuickBooks Online. I have an account in QuickBooks that's called Ask My Accountant, and I use that just to throw in all of my question items. So if I have something that comes through the bank that I don't know what it is and I want to ask my client, I put it in that category. And then at the end of the month, I pull that in a report, usually an Excel document, and I email it to my clients, and they are able to fill in what each of those items was that they bought. So for example, maybe they spent $30 on Amazon and I don't know what it is, but they can say, oh, that was office supplies for my business. So my husband and I just got back from a quick trip, and it was really easy for me to manage my bookkeeping business by planning ahead and doing a little work on the road. While I'm giving you my tips, I'll show you a few clips from our trip. This was a really hard hike that we went on. So I have 3 tips to start out, and then I also have 3 types of work and what to do with those. So first of all, automate everything possible. So you can have QuickBooks Online send invoices every month, like set that up ahead of time. And you can also do the same with reporting. You can make it so that your calendar is automated so you don't have to manage that manually. Next thing is clearly communicate with clients. Most of the time, my clients totally understand if they're like, oh, your report is going to be like 3 days late this month because I have a trip coming up. So as long as you are proactive, they are usually happy to accommodate. Number 3 is build your bookkeeper buddy network. So find some other bookkeepers that can fill in for you if you decide to take a trip. And then I see my bookkeeping tasks in 3 buckets, and you can prioritize things. So first of all, some things you can work early. So that would be things like categorizing transactions. Don't let those build up until the end of the month. The second type of task is things that you might need to do while you're traveling. So really time sensitive things like payroll is a good example of this. I have been able to do while traveling. And the good thing is all I need is my laptop computer to work on my bookkeeping business. So it's not too hard as long as I have Wi-Fi. I've actually also been able to use my phone as a hotspot for internet. And you can decide what works for you. Some people don't like to do any work on vacation, so that might be a time when you delegate to a different bookkeeper. But for me, I feel like I can take more vacations more often if I'm able to do just a little bit of work on vacation. And then the last type of work is things that you can do when you get back. So things that aren't really time sensitive and things that clients won't mind if they're a little bit later. Let me know in the comments what you are working on today. Definitely follow me for more bookkeeper content. You can also check out my website, FinePoints.biz.